Hello everyone, this is the 600th video, and at every 100th video, by tradition on Schwerpunkt, we comment the state of the channel and how it's faring and so on. So, first of all, I'm very glad, of course, to have arrived at this point. I never aimed at, let's say, reaching a number here. I'm a person who, if you set me on a track, I go on, and as long as there is not a cause of major force that interrupts me, right? I go on like a mule, and I pull the cart and everything. And I hope to go on this way. Albeit, I must confess that it's likely that in the future it will diminish at some point. I can't tell which one. To me, I would continue with this rate all the time. But it's evident that certain things I'm doing in my life will bring me at one point to even do more, have less time, and therefore I will not stop this. I don't see any reason for stopping it. I like it, and especially if the rate of videos per time will decrease, I will surely even put a bit more of effort in the single one of them. So I don't know. I hope this will not happen, but this year I should theoretically finish my PhD. I don't know whether I will make it. I hope so. At worst, I should have 6 extra months for it. And probably you wonder how I can do both things at once. At least I realize for many people it's even theoretically easy to do, I don't know, to have a job, for example, and doing their PhD or keeping studying during a PhD. Here, at least for me, it's impossible. Like, I always like to stress that where I come from, things are a bit still serious for in this matter, and this is proven, if anything, by how our PhDs are eventually can make us access certain positions even in other countries in the world. But I don't want to flatter my group at this point for the sake of it. It's just that it's really a lot of work, really a lot, and the thesis is huge, right? It's gonna be roughly 1,000 pages, and I basically work all the day. But paradoxically, making these videos gives me a sort of discipline, because paradoxically, taking away a bit of time, and which is not just a bit, because it takes me sometimes even a couple of hours just to make the video, and it's dramatically easy to elaborate it. As you know, I don't make this kind of a work of art graphically or whatever. So, but that's the point, and we will address that later. What I think these videos should be, and what YouTube actually has become, and why, and which philosophy maybe I follow in here. But I mean, knowing that I have to work every day a certain amount is easier if I know that I can't do it and I must do it in a certain amount of time. And so it's as if I pressured myself, because I know that if I gave myself more time to do things, I kind of do them worse, right? Instead, I have this balance that I hope nothing will come to interrupt, but these things kind of happen all the time. I've had problems in the past years with noises and stuff like that. Also didn't make me sleep and all of this stuff. So that's been quite of a serious psychological problem for me, that otherwise I'm pretty stable, and I don't have, fortunately, any problem, at least up to now. So yeah, everything is going has gone up to now the way it should, right? You notice that I basically updated, like I uploaded a video a day, right? That's my rate, and I discussed the stuff for hours, right? And I think it's, as a model, and actually now we will observe a bit of statistics in the analytics here, which I find always very fascinating. But it's obvious that if you consider here 1150 subscribers, that I want to thank personally all of them, and also the people who I know that follow me without being subscribing. Actually, that's pretty amazing feat. But it's 600 videos, and of course I know that on average, a channel with hundreds of videos normally, if it's successful, if people like to watch the stuff, is usually larger. It's not always the case. I don't regard the YouTube algorithm as a particularly fair one in terms of actual, in fact, let's say, promotion of the best contents or whatever. But that's in fact a bit complaining about the obvious, that is that this stuff maybe should be better written maybe in an article rather than told out here, or there are certain strategies that I could applicate even to augment the numbers of views and so on. But to tell it all, I like what I do and the way I do it. And of course, I could do better, but philosophically speaking, I like what I do and what I'm doing in this moment. And I feel that I'm fine like this, that I could do better, but at this point I'm following a path that has its own logic. I don't know how much advantageous at this point, because this is a long-term project. Like, it's not a something I began to do by chance, right? At the beginning it was a bit like that. Like, I started here, I do these things for more than 2 years, even if basically I think I started in at the end of January of 2018, and I didn't make so many videos at the beginning, so it's just after 6 months that I began to make a video a day regularly. So it's as if we were entering in the second year now, right? And naturally, the quality has improved over time. There are certain videos I uploaded back in the day on topics that are actually very important, and that I wish I had done in a different way, because also I spoke worse than I do now in English, and so many people, I realize that it's even painful to listen to them more than maybe it's already the case at the moment. But I'm also happy to have improved my English skills. Last year I took, thanks to my scholarship, an English class, not much because of improving my English. I would have not done it. It was just for actually taking a language certification that I can just show in a curriculum, but it's not a big deal because I can speak. Of course, English is actually the foreign language that I speak best. But I know other two languages, and I've always been very lazy regarding that. I'm a self-taught. I like to. I learned objectively 2 foreign languages on my own, through either traveling or for sentimental reasons as well, I must confess. And and I keep exercise. I read. I even write in these languages sometimes. And it's rare, but let's say I keep in touch with these languages, but I didn't improve English specifically for the sake of for the sake of Schwerpunkt proper. I began this channel. I started this channel by saying, okay, yeah, I suck in the way I speak. I repeat myself, my syntax. I know even how do you say it in English, sucks and so on. But if I start becoming anxious about every single thing, I'm done for. So I just give it a start, but I've always been very actually very thoughtful about what I could do with this mean. Like, I didn't begin this just for fun, right? I really wanted this stuff to be listened to, right? I didn't even care about the watching part, the visual part that I try to improve over time. I'm stocking all the pictures I use regularly for certain specific topics, and they are augmenting. I don't know if you have noticed that there are always more pictures in my videos on average, and so something is getting better. I also edit the audio. Very often, like, I split it into, every time I make a mistake, let's say I cut the audio track and I mount it and I better it, and of course, like, there are lots of and all this stuff, but that's just how I speak. And frankly, I came to the point that during the day I don't speak very much my own native tongue myself. It's telling the truth, I think I speak more in English because of Schwerpunkt during the day than I do in fact in my native tongue. And that's quite interesting because objectively, I remember I once I had to speak at university in front of lots of people, and I began like saying something either or and or so, and all the people looked at me like, what the hell is this guy saying? Because I began to speak as if I was doing that on Schwerpunkt, and it was pretty weird, but I pulled it out anyway. And so yeah, I kind of refined a little bit not this much, but I'm glad about it. So as I was saying, I planned this thing to expand. Like I arrived after 2 years, let's say, at a point that I had wished for. Like the moment in which 600 videos are a lot, and also the topics we cover are a lot and quite diverse. Not much because of the actual pool of topics. Like we essentially discuss manualistic medieval history and a bit of medieval warfare in, let's say, medieval and ancient warfare a bit in detail, with some excursus in even into modern warfare recently. And but it's rather the degree of of specialization, let's say, of the single topics that is narrower, like that makes this net a bit disconnected, in the sense that the level of depth sometimes is such for which you don't connect to everything you have said before. Like there are topics that, I don't know, how much did we actually talk about Frankish warfare, for example. We talked a lot about the Franks, but there are certain videos we made about other, I don't know, other peoples, for example, that are fairly detailed, right? And for others we didn't yet, because objectively there is that lot to say, and I calculate that objectively I don't think we will ever end this. I don't think it will ever, even if I wanted, I would never leave enough to finish all the stuff that I can say, right? So, of course, the worst can happen in every second. To me, let's put it in this way. But let's say this is the point. If I have the chance, I go on, right? So, and you can be sure of that, and I will never abandon you without a farewell or an explanation. And I don't like to to put a drastic end to things. So even if one day I will get tired, which I don't think so, but or maybe I will have other things, more important things to do, I will tell you, but I will leave this on. I will keep uploading every once in a while, so it's not a big deal. But for now, I think for the next I don't know, 9 months, 8 months, you hopefully, if something bad doesn't happen, including noises, so let's not get excessively dramatic, but for me that's dramatic, telling the truth. I will keep doing the same. I don't plan any major change or any significant change. But we arrived anyhow, in spite of the level of detail, at a point in which we made enough video for which you can basically jump from one topic to another with a fair level of detail and, let's say, complexive, comprehensive connection that is very interesting in my opinion, because we came to discuss fairly a lot, right? And even in technicalities, here I see, for example, what I sponsor a lot is my playlists. That, of course, they have several videos that are actually the same, right? So every playlist is not exclusive, it shares videos with the others. But here, for example, I don't know, I read Frankish history, 29 videos, that's not a few. Carolingian Europe, okay, well, that was easy, but let's say medieval Germany, 28 videos. Medieval Europe in itself, 257 videos. Viking era, a few actually. But migration era, 49 videos. It's not a few. Medieval warfare, 93 videos, and so on and so on. And I'm very satisfied about this, because from the analytics I understand this stuff is beginning to circulate, right? And albeit there is not really a lot of traffic, a terrific amount of traffic, I realized that people come, and when they subscribe, they subscribe to stay, right? We can't even see it from the analytics. Let's see, subscribers basically conquered here 1,322 people and lost only 182, right? Which is a good, like, it means the overwhelming majority of people that subscribe fundamentally, okay, maybe not the overwhelming majority, but let's say 5/6 of the people are here to stay, right? And I don't experience any significant loss of subscribers over time, like for particular videos I make. Also because I'm fairly constant, you know that my goal here is not to be kind of polemic for the sake of it. I'm not political in the sense of, that I'm politically oriented. I obviously have my bias in certain things, but I'm talking history here. I don't care about other things. I criticize ideologism as such, but that can come from every side, and I don't care fundamentally about making particular attacks or getting involved into discussions about politics or this kind of stuff. I just have obviously my ideas, and I thought that some of them would be, if not controversial, at least debatable. And instead, I realized that you tend to follow without much of a problem regarding those things. I mean, the only I didn't get any criticism, particularly speaking. I mean, it's insignificant. It's virtually insignificant, and most of it is just, I don't know. I can't hear what you say. I don't understand what you say, or I don't know. This thing was not like that. This people wasn't in that place at that time. And this terrible border disputes about populations during early Middle Ages in certain areas, but it ends there, and it's actually insignificant, really, if you look at it statistically speaking. And I also have zero tolerance for whoever comes to say kind of I blocked a bunch of anti-Semitic people, for example. And I knew that at the time I made a video on medieval Jews that they had to pop out for some reason, and then I blocked them immediately, because this channel is definitely not tolerating any of that behavior. And maybe we can even explain it at one point, but I don't consider it a political statement. Like, it has, obviously, as every single statement you can even formulate that has a political weight of some sort, but it's chiefly a reason of historical accuracy, not of political orthodoxy or whatever, which is actually a problem. I'm not very vocal about this either. I mean, this fact of reconciliating, I don't know, certain political positions that are mainstream today, or apparently mainstream, for which there is a lot of polarization, telling the truth, in the world, and historical accuracy. I would like to stick to historical accuracy by the sake of it, and sometimes I can sting a little when I say, look, that the world maybe is telling you on average something different. There are these prejudices, there are these misconceptions, but that's normal, because that's, at the end of the day, what history should be made of at the same time. And of course we can debate. Just recently I was thinking, for example, about the need of making more videos every once in a while. That every once in a while I make a video about some, let's say, strictly historical problem, in the sense of methodology most of the times, or like experiences about how people kind of approach history, from which sides, etc. And I think that some of you are interested, because I see here, let me see from the stats, even your age. I realize from this so-called demographic data on YouTube that these are completely useless, like, because I presume that actually, I noticed that when I had to check the amount of female followers that is dramatically low. Here it gives it just a sort of one, I don't know, few girls on this channel, which is normally, it's normal apparent, because of YouTube is mostly male dominated, whereas other sites like, I don't know, Tumblr is more female dominated. But the impression I have is that I have actually way more female followers, but they don't, basically this other age or sex information is not public, and therefore that doesn't arrive in statistics. I have this impression, because I think it's impossible that there are certain numbers, a certain thing. For example, I don't, even in terms of age, I don't have any person over 54 years old that follows me. I know it's not true, as a matter of fact, because there are people who are older than that who commented at one point, and so this is rigged, this is false. And I'm actually glad to see that there are people from all backgrounds, like from all countries, age, it doesn't matter. But I have, however, apparently this overwhelming here in terms of age, 64% of people in the age group of 25-34, to which I also belong, which is not surprising because this is our generation that kind of got interested in certain things in a certain way that is more projected a little bit towards this. And a few, even telling the truth, a few between 18 and 24 years old, like only 8.4%. And interestingly enough, here you see the idiocy here, that actually the statistics doesn't show, or maybe this is because this analytics is messed up, right? It's broken. Some data are actually, the same YouTube tells you that there are actual mistakes. Here, for example, it says age of viewers or sex of viewers are mistaken on the day October the 2nd, October the 3rd, 2018. I mean, things like these. So I don't trust the statistics very much. But there is one, and the biggest, that I care the most about, because that is more strategical, let's say. That is the, where people come from in terms of clicking, right? Actually, the geographical or from which country you are, it's broken as well. I can't look at that. It got broken in 2018, and it was never fixed. And I know it's unfortunately fairly common on YouTube analytics, and I don't think there is any way to contact YouTube to say, my own geographical data is broken, right? And it was kind of cool because it showed you all the map, the world with different colors depending on the intensity of spectators from watch time or just views. But here I realized that the most important thing that I of course expected, that is that the majority of views, actually at this point of a clean 50%, comes from YouTube search, right? And they don't watch it for extremely long, but also not for extremely few. Actually, the average watch length is almost 5 minutes, which is not a few for YouTube standards, but maybe for mine a little bit, because my videos are very long, as it's evident, and therefore if you watch just that few, it's not an enormous success. But apparently already having the total average is, I think, 7 minutes and 16 seconds. And I see that, as it's normal on YouTube, most people click watch after 30 seconds they leave, right? But I realize that every day there's a consistent amount of people who watches for a very long time, actually, and at that point I realized they're actually listening to me, because there's not much to watch after all, unless you like the pictures that objectively are very cool. Once I never rewatch my videos, but the few times I did it, I remained hypnotized, because I was just trying to listen to myself, how I sounded to fix certain things. But in front of me on the screen I had this picture. I don't remember what it was, and I think it was an illumination from some manuscript. I began to notice details that if I hadn't been staring there, even just for 20 seconds, I would never noticed. So I think it's pretty interesting as a perspective, and of course kind of educational in itself. So going on with the statistics here, it seems that YouTube search makes for 33% of the total watch length, which is good. I don't know whether this statistics is broken, but they have varied over time, so I don't think they are, right? So now a consistent amount of people comes, 32%, comes from either the channel page or certain navigational functions with, I don't know, I don't think it's not notifications, because here I see notifications are, let me click on it to see what this actually is. Well, I think it doesn't even say that. Homepage is subscriptions, watch later, and the chronology of views, right? So this is a good 16% plus another 16% of channel page watches, views. Actually, it is not bad. And then I have 7.7% of suggested videos and a 6.1% of playlists that I have began to share, by the way, in Facebook groups, because that's what I do. And if you're listening as a subscriber, chances are that you also came from there by some reason. And external views, so actually the clicks I get from those same other sites, that is overwhelmingly Facebook at this point. Yeah, which is a lot. Like, just 72% of views is 69% of watch length. Yeah, the others are Google search, DuckDuckGo.com, Google, Twitter, Yahoo search, etc. And it's not bad, because it's basically it's telling me something compared to the beginnings. That is that there is a pool of people that is gravitating around my channel now. That in fact I see from the instant views, there is a sort of stream here in the analytics that makes you see in kind of so-called real time, which is an expression that I hate, especially in my own native language, but let's say in happening live, let's say how many clicks you get and how many and then which videos actually. And this is interesting because it's as if a stream that flows right over time, and it's always on, and I get it basically spans 48 hours, and you can see and I've reached this optimum that if I'm over 800 views at every 48 hours, it's kind of fine. But I think a more successful channel will get to 1200 at this point at least, right? Which is not the case. But at the same time, there are lots of things that I have learned, especially from this tool here, about VU and how watches my, let's say, not really VU, but how my videos are watched. And I must say that, yeah, it's a sort of failure, in a sense that, you know, YouTube works more or less in this way. The famous YouTube algorithm, as far as I've understood, people click and view and watch, I mean. And the watch length is actually the single most important thing. Not even views are important for real. Like, views are important if you get someone to click on your content, it's fine. But if nobody stays to watch, like, that's a failure. What YouTube actually really cares about is the watch length, which means how long that person remains glued to the screen, right? And that's, by the way, also, for example, how much YouTube pays people. I don't want to monetize my channel, at least by now, because, by the way, it would make so few that it's not even worth that to bother myself. I don't even do this for money, telling you the truth. I mean, if one day it will happen, it will maybe get some cent from it, but I don't like. Yeah, it's better than nothing, but I don't think it's such a great thing. Not even for you, because frankly, I hate ads. Right? Probably at some point I will start a Patreon account. Actually, I have already started it, but I haven't attached any credit card, or at least those cards they actually make money with, because I simply have too few views. I mean, I'm sure I would get donations and stuff, and I could even promote my videos at that point via YouTube, but I have this sense of first of all, I admit it, I'm extremely lazy, and secondly, I'm also a bit proud, telling you the truth, and I like to see how this system evolves without getting spoiled, right? I spoil it a little bit because I share stuff, but it's cheap and free, and it's just funny also to see how that changes the thing. And I noticed, first of all, that at this point, naturally, if a person clicks on my videos, it's more likely to get sucked in the system of my videos, either because they're kind of better than before, and or because I objectively made so many videos now that I keep appearing probably even in the suggested videos, and in general the person gets curious, and that's why I began to sponsor my playlists, that I realized many of you does not know that they actually exist. They're actually interesting because they make you see how many videos I made about a specific topic, and that's also easier to search for it if you don't know, if you're not aware of how many videos I actually uploaded here, and that's very useful, I think, and I tend to make people pass through that direction, preferably. So as I was saying before, the YouTube algorithm functions in this way, that essentially videos that are most watched, they tend to appear more in the suggested videos. Every time you click on a YouTube videos, on the right you have all this load of suggested videos, and they appear, I think, on the basis of that criterion, unless it's something sponsored, for which you get a preferential way in these videos pop out because the person paid for making them showing up. Right, this is present even on Facebook. Right, I'd never done anything like that. Maybe one day we'll do it, but only when this system will, I will be able to make some money out of it, right? And just to see what happens, at that point, even for the sake of it, because this can backfire. Really, it's like advertisement. There are lots of people who start YouTube channels because they want to make money with them, and the first thing they do when they arrive to 1,000 subscribers, which is the minimum that you can ask enable monetization for, they immediately put the ads, and people get annoyed by that because we all hate ads, let's be honest about it, and they say, this guy's doing it just for money, right? And that's there's really nothing bad in it. Personally, I've done all this for free, and maybe, I don't know, on a market this would be worth something, right? So actually, I do it obviously for economical reasons in the strictly, say, physical sense of the word, meaning that, of course, the bigger this channel gets, the more it can be useful to me in several ways, right? Last years they called me, they would even wanted to make me an interview on Russian television. That was pretty weird. They called me to make this. I mean, it was nice, actually, for the girl contacted me, and she seemed genuinely interested and so on, but I found it weird that they wanted to make me speak about essentially the Mamluk army, because and I realized why, because they had searched for this on YouTube, and I'm one of the very few people who makes this kind of videos like the Mamluk army that nobody seemingly cares about. And I refused because they wanted to show me via Skype on Russian television. It was kind of, I said no, but it was kind of interesting, and I didn't receive any other, demand for, because objectively, I don't think I'm quite professional in the way I do things, at least in terms of entertainment here, and it's obvious that even the historical quality is not like the one I would use to, to write an article, but this is also kind of a chat between you and me. I mean, it's a debate in the broad community. You come here, you all participate to this. I think it's nice in itself, and I don't want to make it kind of an extremely serious thing, which would make you also lose the few entertainment you can get from this. But this is not entertainment, right? And what happens, though, once again, excuse me for my usual digressions, is that basically the videos that are watched the most they're like a black hole. Like, they keep attracting, gravitationally speaking, other views because they're suggested more and more and more. And what does YouTube do this? Because they say, okay, this video has been watched already, so it means that people are more likely to come here on this site to watch it again because it's so attractive. But as a consequence, this is unfair towards the others. I mean, perfectly fairly from YouTube perspective, they can do whatever they like with their own site, because basically all the other videos they pass in the background. What do I mean? For example, I realized from the statistics that I have lots of there are a handful of videos that or even more that are watched regularly. And I can't tell you even which ones they are if you give me 1 second. I mean, there are certain videos that people stumble into. I don't know why. They do it through the YouTube search. I can tell you the first ones. Frankish Merovingian Kingdom. Avars, Bulgars, Magyars and Slavs, migration era in Eastern Europe, something like that. Scythians and Sarmatians at the Russian migration era. Beginning of the migration era, a lot of migration era. The Alemannic history of Germanic people. Luxembourg, Bohemia, heart of the 14th century. Seljuk Turks and Islamic world. Pre-Islamic Arabia. Battle of Manzikert as well. Foundation of the Longobards Kingdom. These get watched a lot, right? Especially they get a lot of views. With the only exception of the foundation of the Longobards Kingdom, it gets actually very few, but a very high watch length. I don't know why. But I'm happy about it because it means that there is someone who is interested in the Longobards at that point of listening to me for 2 hours. Like, it's pretty interesting. And these things attract, and these are, I must say, these are videos that I made, I think, all more than 1 year ago. And this is partly also the reason why they got more views than the other, because, you know, in interest of time, they collected more views, but not all of them, because they're videos that I made at the very beginning nobody watched. Right, and what happens is that, yeah, and I can try it myself actually. I can click on one of them, and I realize that I use very special tags, for example, that I think they help me to connect certain videos. For certain types of videos, that actually works, because it tailors all the videos together. But what happens if I click on the Frankish Merovingian Kingdom, for example? YouTube suggests to me not other videos of mine. Of those 29 videos I made on Frankish history, not even one pops out among the suggested videos. There are only emerged others that I can't, let's say, I will not name them. I will not sponsor them further, but I'm not jealous. I mean, those are actually good videos that people legitimately want to watch. But also on the quality, I would maybe have something to say at that point, historically speaking. That, you know, will make people click on those videos. There are successful channels that have good memes, good even graphics, etc. They're very entertaining, and at that point they get sucked in that channel, because the other suggested videos are more likely to be exactly the ones of other successful channels. As a consequence, basically I made a video that people click on. They maybe you know, like and they subscribe, and they remain within my clientele, let's put it this way. So I get subscribers, but they are addressed preferably, overwhelmingly, polarizingly by YouTube on videos that already have had their share of attention, that kind of keep attracting people. In that way, which is rigged, because at that point it's not based on actual information. I hope that the tags would help to connect to similar videos, but that seemingly gets overwhelmed and washed away by the sheer watch length of videos. It can be even hundreds or thousands of years long, and that's how difficult it is to emerge. So actually what I'm doing in making all of these videos now is, it was a strategy that I began since the very beginning. Like, I knew that I had a lot to say. I wasn't sure that people would find it interesting. I still have to sort out whether this is a good, you know, enterprise or not, for you and for me. But I still believe in the general value that a certain type of content can have for everyone that is interested in knowing history a bit, in the way we do, let's say. The point is, I've noticed, and we have noticed in general, everybody has noticed in general, a shift in YouTube from a sort of, let's say, individualistic, individualistic is not even the correct word, but let's say from a sponsor was kind of broadcast yourself, for example. So something centered on the individual, on the person that could make, produce, have ideas, and simply throwing it out there of things that were even disgusting. I mean, lots of the, you know, enormous success of certain channels was due to the fact that, you know, think about Filthy Frank or these things that I liked, but it was pretty funny by certain standards, that were kind of stupid, right? They were clever in their own way, actually, Filthy Frank especially, but others were just like even as bad music. I mean, on YouTube, go look at how many watches Mozart music gets, and look at how much, I don't know, Madonna gets, just for example, right? And at that point, you understand a differential in objective values that you at that point you can't measure through just number of views, and there is something behind that, evidently, that is different. But the idea was that whichever person clicked, that was fine, right? In YouTube at the beginning made a fortune like this because it was about attracting people on the platform, and they succeeded. They scored big, right? And the problem though is that as all these big systems, at a certain point they have to get regulated. Now the point is that regulation is important because you can't objectively upload every single thing on the internet. I mean, you could, but you need some restrictions, maybe, or maybe not. I actually believe that there shouldn't be any restriction. I mean, if I want to see, I don't know, people kind of shooting each other, but it's not a big deal. YouTube should, like all the rest of the internet, should be just for, adult people, and who cares about who gets impressed by what. The point is, though, that this is not the case, but worse than that, which I can in part, however, understand in terms of general sensitivity and whatever, they decided to shift the character of what the content, the contents should be. This has a bit crippled YouTube, that is still enormously successful, and it will keep being so for a while. And I cared about these things because I also wondered, is it advantageous at this point to upload all this stuff on YouTube, aside from the fact that it could delete your channel without any appeal at every second. So I'm even doing this without, eventually for reasons that are beyond the actual success on YouTube, because I don't care much about it. Actually, this has been a great help for me for learning a lot of things. Ever since I started Schwerpunkt, I learned myself a lot of stuff. So even if my channel got deleted tomorrow, I would still say, well, okay, now I know a freaking lot of things more than before, and this was terrifically useful for me in this time of my life. But more than that, I was saying that YouTube has shifted the contents towards not just, child, family friendly, this stuff that everything has to be nice and smiley. There's been all this thing of the COPPA stuff that was utterly ridiculous and senseless, and but also not probably a big deal at the end of the day, in practice for us as well as for them. But they wanted to do something more oriented towards entertainment, right? The point was not, creating a platform. Now actually creating a platform for a person like you, like me, who can speak their mind and expressing their opinion and say something that maybe makes a difference, maybe it doesn't, and but just we can't do it. There's a person that can listen to me from the other side of the globe, and that's freaking amazing. When I was a kid, this was inconceivable, right? Still, in the easy way that it is today, to me it's still amazing, telling the truth, and I like it a lot. Also for this reason, aside from the fact that I speak about history not alone, but at least with someone who listens, and that I can profit from in a way positively, and they can profit from in a way positively. They wanted to this a matter of entertainment. That is, you have to create contents that look good, that they sound good, that put people in that mood, they're happy, and they forget all their problems, yay! And this is, if you followed my content, that I have a pretty different view of, if anything, historically speaking, on how this is actually the deal. First of all, they have the full right to do whatever they want with their platform, right? If they're doing something wrong, they will pay for it themselves, so we don't have to be worried, and actually wish them success, because unless they will not use it to implement these policies further, at the end of the day, it's fine. We can even overcome this. The problem is, in my opinion, that it's kind of a Soviet method, right? You have to do what we say, because to us that's how the world at the end of the day will be. YouTube has an enormous reach. There are, I don't know how many billions of hours here. I mean, it's the history of the universe. There's an enormous content. So this has actually a worldwide impact. Like YouTube has an enormous and radical worldwide impact. We couldn't delete, for example, this site without risking to cause a major economical damage at many levels. You know, a lot of companies work with this stuff. They promote themselves. So it's evident that we are getting wired historically to these means in a way that we will not be able to do without, which is also freaking risky, telling the truth. We are becoming terribly more cerebral and few practical. I mean, probably there were more chances to have a less disastrous outcome from a certain I don't know, a nuclear holocaust in the past than today we would have to do without electricity, let's say, or something. So it's I don't know. I'm just throwing random examples that do not even make sense. But let's say we are thinking too much. We are living too much through this stuff, and I don't think it's it's necessarily bad. I've never seen the internet as such as a evil mean. There are a lot of people who complain about this, but I don't. I think it's overall a positive thing. The problem is when you start imposing a certain line that that will not actually fit. You can't promote contents just because people can consume it fast because it's like a drug that makes them feel better at the moment, right? I don't think YouTube should be like this. I'd say ignoring what happens in the rest of the world. Just look at this shiny, happy people that do things that are kind of fun and cute. Like I don't believe in that. I believe in talking about serious stuff and reflecting and reasoning and being thought-provoking. And part, of course, of this world is, I'm extremizing. They let you do that, of course, but at the same time, they have primitively acknowledged that humans overwhelmingly tend to react emotionally speaking to certain things, and therefore certain contexts are kind of an investment at short term, which is actually probably one of the most stupid ways of investing, because it is true that there is a world market that can get messed up from a month to another. Look with coronavirus, what is happening. Like, we could have ever thought about it. I mean, it was theoretically possible this stuff would emerge, but world can change dramatically fast. So it's fine also that the market is not stupid, that it aligns on certain things. But let's not think because it's not stupid, it's also necessarily rational. We have surpassed the theories of the Homo economicus over time. We know that humans actually do not make always the right mathematical rational choice. And I think that planning a long term is actually for people who really care about the future, really want to do something positive about it, and not cashing fast and just getting money easily, thinking that that's going to build something solid for the future, right? So much of the history of civilization is actually made like this. Like we mostly react to problems only when they present themselves, and then we cope with them. That's because we are very lazy. We've seen it also in the von Clausewitz series, like that humans tend to be lazy and tend to, if they're not pressured by something, to remain and to, they're idling without and preserving themselves as much as they can with a few expanse, let's say. But it's evident that civilization didn't evolve either without pressure. So the pressure can also come from realizing that certain things can make a difference, right? And that's why I'm making all of these videos, because I presume that over time I will be repaid for this, like that these system will eventually expand. And this is what has actually happened by now. Like, this channel has been consistently growing. It's been constantly growing. It hasn't had pauses. It hasn't had um, setbacks. It's always been here and it's always been expanding. And in part, it's obvious. I've put so much out here that it would be strange if it didn't expand. But, certain people could simply say, well, but this is bad stuff. I don't care. Instead, I get this satisfactory amount of support and of interest, etc., which is also, it's nice from you. And I thank you a lot for all the support, all the subscriptions, all the watch length. I mean, you are the soul of this all. I mean, I can't put the stuff out here, but if you don't watch it, I wouldn't even feel like it's important to do that. So I'm actually very happy of what I see and what I experience in here, and I presume that this channel will keep growing. Not that fast, not so explosively, but definitely solidly. And in fact, that's all what I care about. That's why I don't sponsor stuff with money. That's why I don't monetize this stuff, because I presume that it's better to have to build this thing step by step with genuine interest and usefulness, let's say, and cohesion and acceptance and validation, than just pushing the stuff without criterion and consideration. So how do I plan this thing to go? Well, I don't really know, because as far as I know, I don't remember when it was 1 year ago. I think it was something like 300 subscribers, barely. Now I'm at 1150, and also I stopped sharing stuff on Facebook for some time because it was too busy with my work. And I began just from a couple of days, and in fact immediately I got tens and tens of subscriptions as long as I do that. But there are also certain seasonal cycles that have to do with the holidays, with the temperatures, with vacations, etc., for which I see that there is a swing that has been repeating itself in these 2 years in an unequivocally macroscopical and structural way that I can keep track of and expect something from it on that pace. But probably, the best thing we can do for Schwerpunkt, if you're interested in making it grow, and therefore in keeping it alive, so with me producing this stuff, is to share it. That's the single most important thing you can do. It's not donating, it's not doing it, it's literally sharing, because even just with a click, or even creating a playlist, for example, that will put the videos in circle, and it will make a difference. So I actually never ask you to do that, but that's terribly important, and we can experiment that, by the way. Because if you share it, I do see that there are, for example, daily, there is always someone who shares this stuff for some reason. I don't know how, whether they're forums or public, or private messages or whatever, but it happens. And you can improve that dramatically. Another impression I've got from the analytics, for example, is that there is a sort of idleness. There's a sort of, let's say, attrition that always happens, is that people are lazy even to click and to follow. So actually what happens is that people get this enthusiasm at the beginning. Maybe they find this channel, but eventually they leave it there because they have anything to do, etc. So sharing and reproposing the stuff is repeating, is acknowledging, making these people acknowledge that this stuff is here and that it's wider than it is, because most of the times you see just one video. That's the tip of the iceberg. At this point there are 600 with today's one. That's also why many people don't know that there are playlists, and now by sharing them, seemingly I got quite interesting results, because people realize that, if they are interested, I don't know, in the migration era here, you have 50 videos, and you say, wow, where do I find other stuff concentrated like this, right? Even if you dislike my contents because the quality, I don't know, we can discuss it now, but that's important, because let's be honest about the thing I do. The things I do are on average more strictly historical than what you find around. I mean, there is no doubt about this. I make a very few research after all, but there are either things that I already know or other things that I can check on my a pretty wide library at this point. And I'm not kidding. This is, I tell you, just for maybe validating the quality of what I do and the amount of information I have access to. I have at this point, let me check here. Here, just in digital, I have. Here it doesn't say yet. Well, it's basically more than 10,000 books. I can tell you. There in my room, I have my own share of books. I have lots of other in the living room. I mean, I arrived to easily 12,000, and they're mostly about history and mostly about military history, and I use them constantly. And I have even others. I have another stock of books I photographed in real life, I would say, and so every time I make a video, it's dramatically easy for me to search in a digitalized archive like this one, plus the internet, all the stuff I need. And that's why I managed to combine certain information so quickly, even to make all these videos every day, that evidently I kind of present also in a fashion that for you is, I made these broad introductions. I tend to contextualize everything, so, and to repeat myself, because I do realize that you can't do 600 videos without repeating yourself. But I try to vary that, because objectively every topic, especially of the military, on the military side, is kind of new, right? We made lots of videos of manualistic nature, especially about medieval society. They're kind of similar to one to others, but never quite the same, are they? I mean, they take into consideration different stuff, and at one point we'll surpass that, because I will exhaust that information at that level, and we will pass to kind of more detailed stuff, even about biographies, about a single story. I mean, we will do something interesting in the future. I have other ideas in mind, even about strictly military kind of war games, strategic problems, tactical problems to solve together. We can do something like that. I think it can be interesting. But I think also the format of the videos has you've seen, has not changed. Like I might have slightly improved my linguistical skills. I might have increased the amount of visual material that I insert, and also to compact a little bit the time I'm able to deliver certain contents. Like now I'm speedier. In fact, I tend also to make kind of shorter videos on average, but saying a lot more. I realize that because sometimes I come across stuff that I discussed, I don't know, 1 year ago. Now I know I could say that in 30 minutes, while before I could do it in 1 hour, right? So this is increasing the quality of the contents, but the format hasn't changed, and it will not change, for the simple reason that aside of my laziness, I don't think for that philosophy that we were exposing before, we should bend to the idea that this should be just about entertainment. This should be about information. That it's the only thing I care about, honestly, because, what does a historian have to do with that? You can insert here and there certain personal considerations, but let's be honest, if you care about history, you care about accuracy, and you care about delivering information that can be disclosure, educational, and that's what we should be content with. And I must say I'm satisfied about what I do, because when I see that a single topic that's never been discussed on YouTube, that has this enormous amount of material, but I mean enormous, well, at that point I say this is a field where, of course, from one side you realize that people even if were not interested to listen to, but at the same time, especially when you compare it with other material that it's out there, you say this has gotten it right. For example, I told you even during my other channel updates time ago that for example, the migration era, there's dramatically few out there. There's a few documentaries, a few videos of amateurs that talk about other stuff. They're very kind of oriented towards certain aspects, but a comprehensive discussion of actual political, military, and social history of that period, it doesn't seem to exist. Migration era is equated usually to the Viking era for some reason, and that's all what people got interested in. They ignore that there is a much broader dimension, that there are so many other areas and times and spaces and fields and you always get this kind of war gamistic slash I don't even know how to say that, but kind of individualistic, localistic idea of those times, which is essentially a conservatively uh, narrow field of topic. And then you sense that these people that are allegedly interested in that period, they lack the realization of what it was broadly meant, that there was something else, there was a lot more than what they usually care about. And that's why history also gets political, because when history is not told, it's very easy to convince people that history is essentially about what you want to make them believe, right? Instead, if you say more and the more people there are to discuss, that becomes actual history, because there is a competition behind that makes people willing to provide better information. This is very important scientifically, philosophically, um, because at the same time you can't pretend that people can be interested in things that they don't know, first of all, but also that they don't understand. So that's why making these videos is kind of courageous, because it's for whoever makes them, because it's a sort of attempt to change a bit the structure of what prevents people to actually get interested in this stuff, and it's a thankless task. But that's why I think it's worth it, because that's paradoxically a field of market when you can probably make a greater fortune if you get it right? And not just making videos that look entertaining, that look just because you tell medieval, let's say, military history with the same graphic means of paradox games, and so that people will click on it and will look at these boxes that kind of clash against each other because it's cool to watch. Presenting history as a kind of a I don't want to, that I don't like cathedratic tones, but these are kind of lessons. Like, this is not very different from what you hear at university normally. I can tell you because, all the times I fell asleep in those occasions, I must say, proves it, and that's also why I try to make it a bit more spicy in terms of criticism and a bit of, thought-provoking terms. And it's that's what it's fun as well for, because it's provoking. Like, I like to provoke. Generally speaking, I have this bit of irony, let's say, Socratically speaking, that that I like to use. Even I don't like sarcasm a lot. Actually, I hate it. But I realize I do use it myself, and sometimes it's for kind of good purposes, right? And up to now, in fact, I'm kind of amazed by, as we were saying before, by the degree of of consensus that I get. Like, of course, I get a person maybe wants to know, like, this thing doesn't convince me, or this is wrong, etc. But that's just because of the single information. But in the general frame in which I present this stuff, it doesn't seem that there is a lot of criticism. Criticism, is it? Like, and I could expand more on that topic, but I don't think it's very important anyway. I'm just surprised, because I must confess that when I began, I was principally worried about this, like, how will this content be received in terms of actual interpretation of it. I suggest it's quite easy to equivocate my content. I think I make mistakes, first of all. I always make mistakes, and as you know, in my videos I kind of correct myself sometimes. Doesn't happen terribly often, especially considering for how much I speak. But that's mostly because I interpret certain stuff in a kind of a debatable way that is never too unbalanced, let's say. But there are things I believe also in, and on which I'm pretty firm, and I realize I could change my mind one day, but I do believe in what I say in sometimes, and nobody ever provided me with evidence with that said, "Oh, this is concretely completely wrong as an interpretation. It's not true. False point." Like, I prove here and there. It's like discussing, right? It's more like people like to participate in this debate rather than than aggressing. Like, there is a very healthy psychological approach. I think even in content sections, you seem to be on average pretty mild, reasonable, polite, mannered people, and even when you disagree, you're actually good. And I don't see a lot of people fighting each other either. I mean, and most of those stuff, it's actually pretty funny because it's, if you go there are certain topics that attract like certain individuals, like like flies, and they aggress. Like, there are certain national. Let's be honest. I will not be explicit about them. There are certain topics, like in terms of national belonging or ethnic origin, that cause some of the worst clashes in the internet. There probably you've never watched any single successful history video, but there are not people attacking each other for their nationality. And sometimes I leave them there because unless, like, I promised you actually that I would get rid of the drama of all these episodes, but sometimes these things are so childish that I like these people to leave them there to kind of battle each other and see whether if someone else gets on the trail, and that gets views. So it's actually a powerful drug, let's say, for injecting, like, for Schwerpunkt spin-off, let's say. I don't know how to say this, but sometimes it's just viable. If instead there's a plain attack, a vicious attack towards someone or something, you can get you can actually comment and say, look, Schwerpunkt, here it's happening this and that. I will come and see that, and block and cancel, delete or something. And I consider myself fairly stern, but also fair. Like, that there are certain things I don't tolerate myself. Like, I don't have time for like useless stuff. Like, if I see that there is the possibility of reasoning, I'm fine with it. When you see that there are certain individuals who wander around the internet to create chaos, let's say, and that's normal as well. They are part of society, and that they also maintain it alive. But at that point, they can be also repressed at that point. And I'm in charge here, just for saying, like, this is not like a public shared space where everybody is equal. No, it's really not. I'm on the lead in here, so you have to trust me. You have to listen to what I say, and you can interact. You can you can naturally say your own stuff. Of course you can, but always bear in mind that here I have to keep order in a way, and a part of justice gets sacrificed in the process, but just a small one. If this means that kind of the good of the group, of the majority, it's fine. All right, it's a very cynic but fair realization. And on the other hand, actually, this is a bit of a joke, but more seriously, I tend to reply to every comment, or at least to appreciate it. But obviously it will come the day in which this will end, in the sense that I will not have time to answer every single thing. So some of you have also began to ask me for sources, for explanations. That's important. I could make a question and answer video, but it's obvious at that point I can't answer every single thing. And I'm sorry. I'm genuinely sorry, believe me, because I do understand what it means to listen to something, being maybe just curious and wanting to know. That's alright. That's perfectly fine. That's what it should be, because if you're on that track, you're fine. You're really trying to better yourself, and we should all try to do that. Even to have the honesty to ask, but I also can't do everything. So the best thing you have probably for certain questions, like if it's a sheer information about the atom, a name or something, I think it's fairly easily, at least for the questions that I've seen that are posed normally, as you would expect on YouTube, it's fairly easy to find the answer somewhere else, like normally on the internet, with a simple Google search, etc., with a bit of of consideration, of course, about things you read, etc. The internet is not hell. It's not all imprecise or unreliable. You just have to understand how it works and to get a bit of experience, but then you get how it works. But if it's just like a matter of interpretation, at that point it becomes more difficult even to have a discussion, in the sense that I should make a lot of points that are normally the ones I do in videos that usually, in fact, as we said before, tend to repeat each other on certain issues. So it's a big interpretation, a big problem. You can't listen to other related videos in the playlists and to get a better impression about what I was talking about, because I do realize that not everything I say is actually clear and let's say crystalline. So certain things are ambiguous. Even certain words maybe are not even, they're even mispronounced or misused, etc. So it can happen, and at that point just ask, but just be aware that I can't. I may not answer, but it's not because of you personally. It's just that I either don't have the time, or maybe I also think that answer is not quite. I do think certain things as well. I mean, that certain questions maybe are not even worth being answered. Like if they're particularly silly, or like they don't. I mean, that or are things that I realize. Many people make questions. I know it because I did it myself. So I'm not actually criticizing you, because I understand how that works. That we tend to be lazy too, at the point of saying, okay, this guy's talking about the stuff. Maybe he knows his business. I will make the question because he knows, right? Fortunately, not many of you have this attitude towards me, because I'm also not definitely an expert as for the overwhelming majority of things I discuss, at least in the way I wished I could be. But it's obvious that there is this sense, okay, let's ask him because he will answer. I will get the easy answer for the kind of the authoritative source. Let's put it in this way. I'm flattering myself too much today. But you actually have an intelligence that goes beyond that. I mean, you can make your own research, and if you have listened to many of the videos I make, I always urge you to. I mean, to go out there on your own. Like, you shouldn't be spending all the time listening to my videos. Some of you does that, and I appreciate it, and it's actually very, very good and positive for me. But I wish at that point that you could go and take a further step by yourself, because that's literally the single most thing. I mean, if I bring you to do that, you really make my day, and like I think that this is worth it, even if. I made 600 videos for just one person doing this. It means the world to me, and I'm totally sincere about this. Emotional. Like I think it's such a great thing, and I've met some of you who have given so much to this channel that is unbelievable. Others that have gotten something from this channel have started certain paths, that have started even to study at university. I know people who wrote me that began to study at university because they said, you got me interested into this. I wanted to, and I started this for me. Like when I read that thing, I felt like I can't even describe you how I felt in that situation, because it's so weird. That never happened in my life. I never thought I could hear this from someone. I mean, I never pictured, I wouldn't know what it was like, because believe me, I am kind of dedicated when I make these videos, etc. But I have really I'm not a very warm person, as you may think. I actually have a pretty individualistic mindset, and I'm kind of even cynical and cold and even cruel and vindictive and passionate in not just positive ways, and this is it's a way to show me that this makes a sense. Like I'm not sure what the sense of this all in general is. I have my own, let's say, my own beliefs, let's put it in this term, But I'm not sure about this all. I think it's largely just illusory. Like I'm not sure this is. I think this is a journey that doesn't necessarily entail finding an answer to things. We just have to go through it, and that's important. And listening to this and thinking that a person might have done this because of me, because I pushed this person to take an autonomous decision, because these people made them all by themselves, but because maybe they I don't know, they felt it thanks to something they heard in here. Well, that's great, and I think it's really worth leaving in many ways. Also for these little, but for me, but for these people, eventually big and important things. Um, so I repeat that's why I'm so doubtful sometimes about Schwerpunkt in general, because I didn't plan exactly to make it become what it's slowly becoming, right? And I hope it will grow, of course, and I hope it will maybe put me in contact with, I don't know, other people like History Made. I found very great people in this channel, and also kind of my friends, let's say, my people who I esteem and that they esteem me, and that's important. It's a mutual, it's a tacit respect and acceptance and friendship that I highly appreciate, because I believe true friendship is the one that doesn't need a formal recognition to know that you can count on that person. And that's the real friendship. It's not just about being honeyed and nice, etc. and formal. It's really about knowing you can rely on someone. And definitely at this point, Schwerpunkt has become a positive burden for me, because I realize that I carry something that maybe really makes a difference. That really maybe has, even if it's small and overall not so dramatically important, but it does make a positive difference, and this means a lot to me. And seeing that the numbers here are growing, and that there is a general appreciation towards the channel and so on, is making that feeling, that impression growing, let's say, and I will have to come to terms with that at one point in a way I didn't expect before. So, what else to say? I don't know. I think it was pretty much it. Of course, there would be a lot of stuff to discuss. I think another thing that is very interesting, and I know that you're not particularly fond of from the analytics, is von Clausewitz. We arrived at 1/3 of the Thongkriege, and that's very very inspiring for me, because I had spent a lot of time kind of understanding this thing, but without getting so immersed like I do when I read and comment and analyze this stuff in detail, both before and during and also after the video, of course. And I think it's important. We should make it see to someone, because I don't know anything like this that has been done online. I have to contact someone I know that could help me in this, and that's also very important, because you shouldn't forget. Actually, I never stressed this in in channel updates, but this channel is supposed to be about warfare in military history, strictly speaking. You can see I've written in the description of the channel, but it's evident that I attract a lot of people just from other backgrounds that are not strictly interested in military history, or maybe that still don't know about it so much, or they have other interests or whatever. But this is chiefly about military history, and that I have my views, that I have my own opinions, and I try to transmit them to you in theory. Like I would like all I say in that context not to go wasted. Many people, of course, click on videos. I see the von Krieger's videos are not watched a lot. I have a few aficionados, let's say, that keep following and watching all of them, but they're really few, and I think a lot of people just click on this and say, well, what the hell is that? Because, I make every 3 videos there is one about von Clausewitz, so all the new subscribers, and many of you probably who is following this videos, is watching this videos, has come across von Clausewitz, maybe even for the first time, thanks to Schwerpunkt, and that, is just for the record, Clausewitzian concept. I mean, the name of the channel takes the name after it, of course. And I hope I can connect the two things. Like, maybe you came here because, like, this last video I made, or the one before the last, Armament of the Migration Era, beautiful Viking era helmet, all looking all intimidating and so on. And that looks cool, and maybe you clicked on it, and then next to this, in the suggested video, you got a von Clausewitz video, and you said, what the hell is that, right? I don't care. But actually, those videos are possibly the single most important ones I make, because they are really they're not about me, first of all, they're about von Clausewitz and his thinking. I just comment them kind of my own way, but I hope to be orthodox in this regard. And they really express what's the driving force of this all, right? It's very easy when you don't know a thinker or a topic or a person, for that matter, to think like this is, to diminish the importance of it. It's perfectly normal. It's how we behave instinctively as humans, and how we cope with the unknown, right? And with ignorance that we live constantly with. But when you get acquainted with that stuff, you realize that this is beyond a person, beyond an opinion, beyond a book. This is really beyond a lot of things, beyond even history in many ways. So I really advise you that stuff, because it's actually very good one, and more than this, I can advise you, of course, to read and possibly to study, and possibly in the original language, if you can, in German, Die vom Kriege, because it's literally the single one. You must know. If you really think you know something about military history, well, and you don't know von Clausewitz, chances are you're quite wrong. And this is not me saying that, it's simply acknowledging that, I don't know, maybe you came to saying von Clausewitz conclusion on your own, but this is also not quite likely, because von Clausewitz is let's say it's counterintuitive in many ways, and it's mostly his detractors' line in an, let's say, high historical dimension that tend to be more in line with human instinct. Let's say von Clausewitz is in line with human reason, which is a different thing. And that's also what it tells you so much about the same Clausewitz in thought and its actual validity and importance. For the rest, maybe we didn't discuss the topic choice. The topic choice, I think it's going to remain unvaried. At this point, I created, let me say, you know that I choose my topics quite randomly, but not so randomly. There is a cycle of 12 days, let's say, that I alternate with a kind of manualistic stuff and a von Clausewitz video every every 3, 2 plus 1. And this has mostly to do with the armies of, like, Renaissance warfare, let's put it in this way, then a bit of history of chivalry, of feudal warfare, Roman history, Crusades history, late medieval warfare, and Hellenistic warfare, and let's say further, let's say, history of warfare from the low Middle Ages to let's say the 18th century, the Napoleonic times, and more stuff about medieval warfare and migration era, a lot in ancient warfare and Roman army. So this is really a bit concentrated yet, but we kind of alternate that with other topics. I widened a little bit. Even the manualistic stuff has become a bit more thorough and kind of deeper, let's say. But I will continue with this cycle. I don't see. I tried to insert something else, but I think there is not particular need at the time. It's already a big deal if we manage to cover this stuff, and probably the channel will remain about this because also I am a medievalist, and therefore I think I will keep just working and studying with this stuff largely. I have an enormous interest in ancient warfare as well. That, however, is let's put it at the same level. I approach it from a different, not much because I'm not an ancient historian, let's say, but I try to present it in terms that are beyond the obvious of the fact that, of course, like ancient history is kind of very well known compared to medieval history, about which there is an enormous stuff to know more, and also already by itself to know overwhelmingly more than the ancient world, and which is often overlooked as well. So I don't really know what to add at this point. I just think that this is it. I have literally no idea of how fast this thing will grow. Last year I hoped certain things. I grew more slowly than I thought, but it's also because I didn't concentrate excessively in sharing in even in filling the description. Sometimes I got very lazy, but now I disciplined myself once again a bit, and I'm doing fairly fine. But who knows? We will go on, and for now I'm just very happy that you arrived at this point. I have 1150 subscribers. That's a lot. Really, really, really a lot to me. Like, it's incredible, especially if I think you brought all together with a crowd. You're freaking lot. You're really a lot of people, and I am even curious to see who you are. I mean, some of you, I see you in the comments. Maybe you as an avatar, you have your actual the photo of yourself, but it's nice to think that sometimes I do see you like a number when I expect like a growth of etc. But I often stop and try to look beyond that number and say this is actually a lot of people. I know many of you don't even watch the videos. I realize that. Normally, just 1/10 of you watches the stuff at every video I make, but it's still a lot. And alright, we will see how it goes. But yeah, if you really care about Schwerpunkt, if you really want to do me a favor, share. That's the single most important thing you can do. The rest is secondary. I don't think even you don't have to watch if you don't want, but sharing is something important, because in this way you don't have to watch, in the sense you don't have to watch every single thing I do. I would never force you or pretend you to do anything like that. First of all, because I can't, but secondly also because it's normal that it doesn't happen. But the more we are here, the more we can make a difference. I said it even on other occasions. We could get far if we really care, if you're really committed. How many of you would like to, participate to certain kind of military games, or even maybe historical advising, or even movie making? We could get there. There are lots of things I never talked to you about, but I have my plans of world domination, and therefore we can implement them together, and that would be quite a thing. And remember, actually, that I think we're doing it for a good cause, that is history. Like, if you truly love history, which for whoever knows what it means is really an important thing, but really important, way more important than many others in life. Um, Maybe it's not go as far as that, but let's say that it's really meaningful and it's really important. We know what the history means, right? So we are doing it for history. I'm doing it for history. I'm doing this all free. I don't ask anything to anyone. So, but if we support each other, if we keep this channel compact, if we make it expand, we can get more and we can make a difference in many things. We can really improve something together in this world, and I hope that we will get there. And we don't live in very easy times, do we? Like it seems pretty dramatic. Everything in this moment seems like you know the end of the 13th and the first half of the 14th century. We arrived at the plague now. We arrived at the plague now, and it's kind of weird. We could treat the Cold War as, the Angevins versus the Hohenstaufen, and with the Angevins that are the Americans who eventually, that are the NATO that eventually made it at the Atlantic Pact, and then there's been a great economical, growth in the meanwhile, and but immediately afterwards there's been a stagnation, recession, and now even the plague, and then that's a big deal. But yeah, there are similar changes that happen in history. It's not quite the same thing, and there are tough times. So this is not to say that the world is a joke, like the internet or the media would like to make us think. This is not, and that's why we should treat this seriously, right? Not generally as an entertainment, but as something more more serious. Even if entertainment can be serious, of course, but there's more than that, right? Alright, so for now we stop it here, and I just thank you again a lot for all the support and the subscriptions and the views and the watch length. It's amazing, right? We reached more than 1 year and I think and a half of watch length. We're making this growing, and just continue like this. And for now, I just hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, well, I will not say this now. Okay, let's share it if you want. But the most important thing is that you're well. Everything is going fine for you. And I just wish you a nice time, and see you next time. Bye.